Helldivers, if you guys are going into tier 10, you're going to need a build like this. Believe me. Now real quick, holy cow, we have made it past 500 subs. That is huge. You guys have no idea how much a like and a subscribe means to like small content creators. So not only for myself, but other small YouTube channels, just that little bit on your end, it makes a huge difference. So thank you for that. Now that's enough jibber jabber. Let's get to the video. Let's get to the build or loadout. I was corrected. It could be called loadout as well, but I'm going to stick with build. So just know that I know I'm probably wrong in calling it builds when it could be loadout. And for the build name, we're going to call it the Marauder. You StarCraft 2 fans, you know what I'm talking about. Now this build is going to be a big game hunter, which means you should be killing nothing but the massive and heavy enemies. So the real distinction here is when you have those breaches or those dropships, and I'm talking Bile Titan after Bile Titan, Chargers, more Chargers, Behemoth Chargers, the new Impaler that's coming out, you should be able to light them up one after the other consistently. This is what makes this build much different than last week's build, which was the Full Metal Jacket, which was focused on chaff clear. Now technically you can kill Bile Titans with the heavy machine gun. 1, you got to get up close. 2, it takes like a magazine or 2 to kill that sack, and then you're not going to be able to do that consistently. So like that's not what that build was meant for. It's not going to be efficient at killing those massive enemies over and over again. This build, on the other hand, is meant for killing those massive enemies over and over again efficiently. So yeah, with that new difficulty coming out, you're going to want somebody on your team running this that is just going to be a master class at taking out the biggest targets as soon as they come up. Now let's get into the equipment. Now for this theme, we're going with nothing but explosives, missiles, bombs, basically your heavy weapons grunt. So for a primary, we're going to stick in the explosive category. Now there's the eruptor and the crossbow. Both these weapons are suitable if you want to use them. But for me, I'm going to go with the Jar 5 Dominator. This thing is excellent against the bots, and it's really good against the bugs too for staggering. Now the only weakness with this weapon is for when you get swarmed. So mostly on the terminate side. The magazine size isn't the greatest, and when they get up close and personal like that, the area effect explosive damage that this does will hit you and like throw you back. And that could lead to you just getting more swarmed and killed. So this thing does struggle, this weapon in particular does struggle against hunters or stalkers when they get up in your face. But from a distance, this thing gets the job done when it comes to chaff clear. Now for a secondary, we wanted to complement the Dominator. So we're going to go with the Redeemer. So it helps out with that chaff clear when we're getting overrun a little bit more. You switch to this thing and gun them down. Now for a grenade, we're going to go with the stun grenade. So that way we're able to lock down heavy targets to then use our stratagems. So you'll see that later on. So that's why we're going with the stun grenade. Also, the stun grenade can be used to get out of a sticky situation. So for the armor, the kit that I went with is the fortified kit. Now, the only thing that I actually care about from this is the 50% explosive resistance, because that's what basically all of our weapons and all of our stratagems are going to focus around. Having that 50% resistance means you can be a little more carefree with where you throw things and when you shoot things, either if they're up close, because you'll be able to live through that shit. And for those of you who don't know, the fortified kit does help with like bile and nursing spewers, their acid. So it helps with keep you alive. And the one that I'm using, it's the heavy variant, so it's just a lot of armor. You're very tanky, and you basically you have that ability to sit in the pocket and reload when you need to. So for our first stratagem, we're picking the spear. Right now, this is the only rocket launcher that has that lock-on targeting effect. Now, those of you who've been playing since launch know that this thing has worked, been patched, and then didn't work, and then another patch comes out, fixes it, and it has had a turbulent development, to say the least. So at the moment, this thing works great. So just know that potentially when another patch rolls around, they may break it again. So, you know, keep that in mind. If that's the case, the recoilless rifle is the next best option for this slot. But with the recoilless rifle, why I'm not picking it now is the damage for whatever reason is just kind of like inconsistent, and it just doesn't punch as hard as the spear. It has a couple more rockets, but I don't think that's enough to justify taking it over the spear for what this build requires. Now, those of you who use the spear know that this thing one taps heavy targets when it's a dead shot, dead center shot, and then it has that 1 to 2 shot potentials with those massive targets too. And there's nothing better when you're using the spear and you're sitting off in the distance and you see your teammate getting hunted down by a Bile Titan and they got nothing for it, and you're like, I'm coming, homie. And then you just get to sail off into the sunset and go hunt down your next target. So I can't say enough about the spear. It is an amazing stratagem weapon, and basically what this entire build is going to center around. Now, some of the drawbacks with this is you only get 4 rockets, but if you use the team resupply a little selfishly, admittedly, you're not going to run out of ammo that often. I thought that'd be a concern, but while playing and testing this like over last week, I did not run into that issue that often. Now, another drawback with the spear is that it has to be, there's a dead zone with it. So you have to be a certain amount of distance for the missile to actually connect, or else it's just going to fly straight over your target. So know that you do have to be a good distance away, so you can't use this thing point blank. Now, for our second stratagem, we're going with the 500 kilogram Eagle Airstrike. This thing has the potential to wipe out groups of heavy enemies like multiple chargers or multiple hulks. If you have the stratagem upgrade so it has 2 charges, this is an easy no-brainer pick. I don't really know how much I need to say about the 500 kilogram. It's an amazing stratagem for handling those larger targets, and with 2 charges and the short cooldown that the Eagle Airstrikes have anyways, this is by far the best massive killer in the game. Now for the third pick, we're going to the orbital category, and we're picking the Precision Strike. This furthers our potential to kill those heavy and massive targets. Now both the 500 kilogram and the Precision Strike can be used to destroy buildings or do a little bit of chaff clear, but you're going to want to use these 2 stratagems kind of the same way, where when the spear is too close, you want to use these 2. So you want to throw them down, then stun grenade, and then get the hell out of there. And that way you don't have to spend 2 stun grenades. So it's stratagem, stun grenade, get the hell out, and by the time they're done being stunned, your orbital or your airstrike should have gone off by then and they're dead. Now for our 4th slot, we're using this again, this is just overall complements the build. You have 2 choices, I think, here. One is the Commando. This just gives you more rockets in a pinch and lets you have something for if things are too close or you're out of ammunition with the spear. Because again, you only have 4 rockets with the spear. So this Commando will basically just give you that potential to call down another rocket if the need arises and it's like a hairy situation. The second is the Rocket Sentry. This is I'm not the biggest fan of turrets in general. This one's alright. It's not bad. It can totally just lock onto a Bile Titan and take it out all on its own. The only thing about sentries for me is you have to keep an eye on them, especially if there's a swarm, because they're built like paper and they'll just be shredded. So for me, for this 4th slot, I'm going with, I would go with the Commando, but the Rocket Sentry totally fits the theme. These are the stratagems I would lock in for this build. There are some stratagems I'm leaving out, like the rocket pods, and the only reason I'm leaving these out is they're inconsistent on when they crack armor or don't crack armor. And the 500 kilogram Eagle Airstrike, on the other hand, is very consistent and effective at what it does. And so with the rocket pods, I know you can consistently say get it to crack a Bile Titan's carapace, but you got to get close to it. You got to make sure it's at a certain angle. It's just a lot of work to then have to use something else to kill it. You know what I mean? So that's why I didn't take the rocket pods. They're completely fine. They're good. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just for this, I just want things that throw it down, they're dead. There's no other legwork you need to do with it. These stratagems on their own are just very efficient, and they just kind of like complement one another. You don't really need to combo them, they just do big damage. Now, going over the strengths and weaknesses and the efficiency charts, starting off with the bugs, you are S tier at taking out those massive and heavy targets. Because of the stratagems you have, the spear paired with the Commando, paired with the 500 kilogram and the Precision Strike, any large target that comes against your team, you decimate them immediately. You have the ability to put down wave after wave of massive targets. Now, where this struggles is when you get swarmed by chaff. I'm not saying you can't kill chaff. You totally can. You can handle a patrol, you can handle breaches, but if you're doing, say, a nursery nuke mission, you get swarmed on all sides, and this build will struggle if you're in the middle of that, because you need range for the spear, and then all of your stratagems and your equipment set can get you out of a pinch and kind of manage a large amount of chaff, but you can't sit in one spot and hold off the chaff with the Dominator and the Redeemer alone. So that's where you're gonna have to rely on your squad for those moments. Going over to the bot side, this thing's even better because most of the bots do keep you out of range, and you can see a Hulk charging you from a long distance, from a long way off. And if you ever have just thought that the gunships were the bane of your existence, the spear decimates them. One after the other, one shot, bam, 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 bam. And then when a factory strider comes up, it's not a problem. Ain't no problem. So actually, on the bot side, this build actually performs better against the bots because of all their units staying away. The Jar 5 Dominator is excellent against the bots, probably one of the better primary weapons, if not the best. And then all your stratagems here are just heavy hitters. So, and another weakness with this build, admittedly, is lower tier difficulties. This thing is not meant for lower tier difficulties just because there aren't enough targets, essentially. So this thing actually thrives the higher the difficulties go up, because that's, you know, because you get more of those heavy and massive targets the higher the difficulty. So that's why I wouldn't take this in lower tier, just because you're going to be running around, you're not going to really have enough targets. I mean, you can use the spear to target buildings and stuff, but that's not really what you want to do. So I do think this thing is a must for the tier 10 difficulty coming out, because you know they're just going to upscale all the, you know, bigger targets coming out and the new enemies, and then any secrets they have in store with us for us. So really happy with this one. This one's a lot of fun. You feel your impact with the team when you run a build like this. So yeah, that's the build. I have no problem with you guys, you know, disagreeing or telling me things you would change out for the theme. Remember, it's all like missiles, bombs, explosives. That's the theme. So that's why I stayed away from like the energies and the energy weapons and stuff like that. And then something this game really needs is on the end screen where it gives you all your stats and the breakdowns. We really need to, I would really like to see like a breakdown of how many of the individual like massive targets you take down. So I'd want to see like how many factory striders did I just take out, or you know, how many chargers did I, you know, and behemoth chargers did I kill in one tap. Because as it stands, this build at the end there, at the end of that screen, you're probably gonna have the lowest kills. But again, those kills are all the big enemies that can just like be really oppressive to a squad. So I've been thinking about like making a video about like some like, I would say like easy things the developers could do to improve the game. So that's definitely one of the things I would throw into a list like that, is just more stats for us to see and be able to track. But yeah, that's the build. Again, everybody's been super civil in the comments section, and it's the internet, so like you never know what you're gonna get, but you'll have been awesome. If you like Helldivers 2 content, obviously you're in the right place. And yeah, I feel like I'm gonna have to do another build on like what am I bringing into tier 10 day 1 when that release comes out, because that's gonna be pretty soon, and they're probably gonna actually launch that and the next Warbond side to side, because they have like, it's basically a free content update, right? So they're going to be looking to monetize it, and the only way they've been monetizing this game so far is like with those war bonds, and then sometimes they throw some armors in the shop. So I'm gonna be cooking on what build I'm gonna be bringing in, and so I'll see you guys next time. I've got so many build ideas still, so like these are gonna just keep rolling out as soon as, you know, I can make them. All right, I'll see you then, Helldivers. Peace.